ask, yes, I'm sitting in the bathroom. It's really, really hot out, and the bathroom has a nice cold floor, and I felt like vlogging from the bathroom, so you're going to have to deal with that, and also the echo, which I apologize for, but I'm not going to do anything about. So, there you go. I have quite a lot of things that I want to say, but I'm pretty sure they can be grouped into 3 main points, so, like many good Vlogbrothers videos, this video comes to you in 3 parts. Part 1, disliking on principle. So I know I talked about liking things and not really knowing why you like things last week, and the discussion that's come out of that has been super interesting, but I was thinking about it yesterday, and I've come to the conclusion that in a way, disliking things is harder to explain than liking things. Because on one level I think that when you dislike something, a lot of the time it's not really for any main reason apart from the fact that your family dislikes it, or your friends dislike it, or generally society dislikes it, so you just get it in your head and then you don't really think about why you don't like it. The best example I can come up with for this is my dislike of the current Prime Minister of Canada. Now, I'm not going to make this political, I promise, but the fact is that I don't really like Stephen Harper, and although I bandy that fact around a lot, sometimes I worry that I don't have reasons for disliking him, which prompts me to stop and think about why I dislike him, and I do have reasons for that, which I will not get into, but the main thing is that I sometimes feel like I dislike him on principle, and that makes me feel bad. Just generally, I feel bad when I dislike things on principle, because I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And even more than that, I don't like realizing that I have been disliking something just because everyone else did. So, point 1 is that disliking on principle is really not very helpful, and I do think that more than what we like, it is important to consider why we dislike the things that we dislike. Because generally, I feel like there's too much negative energy, or thoughts, or negative feelings in the world, and I feel like it would be helpful if we at least had justification for the negative things that we feel. Part 2, pigeonholing. I really don't like pigeonholes. And it's kind of a contradictory thing to say because I have in the past really tried quite hard to pigeonhole myself to find out where I fit in society's constructs of various kinds. But I came to the conclusion a couple of years ago that it's pointless, because there is no one word that can describe me. Going back to what Spencer said about categories and trying to put people in categories, generally, no, I don't think that's helpful, and we do it a lot, and we do it compulsively, but I really think it would be a lot better if we just didn't. So yes, although I appreciate the value of pigeonholing, and I understand why as humans we really seek to pigeonhole people all the time, I don't think it's helpful. Part 3, the limits of language. I have to say that I'm inclined to agree with Jeff here and subsequently disagree with Spencer. I don't think language simplifies things at all. Or rather, I think that language does simplify things, but I don't think it does it in a particularly helpful or effective way. Because the fact is, language is just a construct that we have made up to attempt to describe the world around us. But I feel like, just like people, the world around us is impossible to describe in one word. For instance, blue can mean so many different things. It can mean this color, or this color, or this color. But it's only going to mean that to me because I'm the only person who's seeing this blue. To take it one step further, I think this holds especially true for feelings and emotions. Because we're the only ones who feel what we feel, and yet we still try and describe them to other people, and yes, sometimes we manage to connect and really get what another person is saying. But even when that happens, we're still only drawing on our own experiences, and our own experiences are definitely not the same as anyone else's experiences, so we can never know for sure if they know exactly what we mean. And the fact is, they probably don't. And so maybe that's less a limit of language and more just a property of the fact that as people we are in our own little heads. And generally, I think the language does a pretty good job of getting the point across, but I think it's limited. And more than language limiting our ability to describe things, and this is where I'm going to get really philosophical, language, I feel like maybe could sometimes limit how we feel. When Jeff started talking about Big Brother and the limits of language in 1984, I thought back to my grade 11 philosophy class and the idea of structuralism. The main phrase that's used to describe structuralism, if I remember correctly, is that language speaks us. In that the structure and the words and the rules of language define how we think and ultimately the things that we think. Such that language restricts our thought because we have been brought up with language and we cannot get it out of our heads. So the conclusion to part 3 is that language is limited because it describes things in a categorical way, and the world is not really categorized like that. So language does a good job because it is pretty extensive and we do make good use of it, but generally, you know what, we just can't describe our own existence to other people, I don't think. It would appear that I have very little faith in human connections. I'm working on that one. And finally, for the unannounced part 4, Jeff, I'll see you doing some sort of challenge tomorrow.